And we are back. We have our next guest, Mr. David Marlowe, who plays Orcus in the play. Could you describe your character without giving away any massive spoilers?
Okay. Quite honestly, we still have 2 weeks to our little time to perform our show, and quite honestly, sometimes I forget about my character's motivation. So this is a good exercise.
Yeah.
No matter the question we're answering. Okay, so Orcus is a demon I would call lazy. Just lazy. Like when you come home, when you come home from a day of school and you're absolutely lazy and you just don't want to do any homework and you don't want to do your chores or whatever. That's just kind of Orcus. He lives the lazy life all the time.
And do you relate to that personally?
Yes. Well, with every character I get, I usually try to relate some part of myself into it, or relate a hard time I've had in my life and put it into the character, and then give off that emotion. So then that affects my posture, the way I blink, breathe, have expression, stuff like that. Yeah.
How long have you been involved in the St. Peter High School Theater
could you,
Graham?
Could you just speak into the
my mic? You have my microphone quiet.
Oh, do you want? I'll just raise up the volume. Just make sure to speak into the mic. There.
I was right next to the mic. I was right here.
Yeah,
This is where I've always been.
Okay. Well, then
you just had me
answer the
quiet.
question.
You just had me quiet.
Answer the question again.
He did.
Well, say the question again.
How long have you been involved in the St. Peter High School Theater program?
So 7th grade, I started doing Footloose, the musical. And that was a really nice musical. And I think it was really, really, really nicely put together. And I was kind of a weenie back then. I didn't know what I was doing. I can remember a whole song where I looked back at it, and then I realized, hey, I was doing the dance the wrong way. Everyone was going, doing a little twirl right while I was doing a twirl left. I was doing a twirl right, but I was going counterclockwise where everyone was going clockwise, So it was, very premature days. And plus, the thing about it is musicals aren't my, specialty. I'll never get, dancing down like that. Not I'm an energetic dancer, but I won't know it off the top of my head. I'll have to look at the film.
I mean, and
so
you were one of the leads of our fall musical.
Exactly.
You were what, Sam, or I forgot. Harry. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ever since that, I did not do. I auditioned throughout kind of middle school for the high school productions. I think for more schoolwork related reasons, I stayed away from the middle school productions. Not because I thought they were bad. They were good. I watched them and they were really, really good. They were always really consistent with how the energy was.
And as someone who has been involved in the middle school programs, they're not the greatest. You could tell that we don't have as big of a budget as the high school performance, but yeah. Anyway, getting sidetracked.
For sure. But then when I came around to high school in 9th grade, that's when I started doing stuff pretty regularly. I didn't do the musical that year because I was again, schoolwork reasons. Mm-hmm. But also, I think there was a part of it where I was oh, maybe it's not for me because I don't get the dancing down or the singing down, stuff like that. So, yeah.
And speaking of you're talking about the audition, about auditioning. Can you describe the audition process?
Just how I feel during it,
how you feel, just anything that has to do with auditioning.
Okay. I usually feel really nervous when going into those. Walking in, you have to be prepared for not the worst to happen, but for a middle ground between best and worst to happen. You'll remember some things if you go memorized, but then if you go with your script, there could be a possibility that you don't get the role that you want just because of not having it memorized.
Yeah.
And that's the stressful thing sometimes. It's you want this role, or this role might be best suited for you, but when it comes down to the way you audition, that's where it really broadens where you could be at the end of the casting process.
Do you have any like tips or tricks on how to actually have a decent audition?
I would say just practice a lot and early on when you can, because when I don't practice early on, or like if I start practicing the day before or start cramming for it, then that's just like when all the thoughts come in that like, oh no, I'm not ready. And then the first thing that comes to your mind before you start with your like first word in your monologue, or the first note in your piece, is that your audition piece is that like, oh, maybe this is not suited for me. Maybe I shouldn't audition. Maybe I should just walk out these doors right now. Like, that could be the thought coming to into your head if you go last minute. If you go way before, like start practicing way before, you'll have more confident thoughts, and that's what I noticed.
So it'll just keep like a positive mindset throughout the entire thing.
Yes.
What is it like being directed by Deering and Maldonado?
They're great because personally, I am from the speech world, and sometimes I try to brainstorm my characters like to the best of my ability, but when I do, it can get a little like too much. Like I have too many ideas. Sometimes it's like, oh, I want to add to the script, or I want to add this action, but we don't have enough time to do that, you know?
And not only that, didn't Deering say before that he does not want anyone to improvise?
No, yeah, exactly. It's more of a thing of they've been flexible. They've been flexible, which I really appreciate. I really love them for, because I feel like if I wasn't, then I would have like less time out of the acting season, I guess, or like the play season that you get to like truly explore who you want your character to be. And like just having that flexibility is nice. And like doing improvised stuff is not yeah, like I said, not really needed unless there is like a slip up on stage, and they make sure that there's no slip ups on stage. If there's a slip up on stage, we own it and we just go along with it. Like, oh yeah, we expected it. They're experienced with that, very, very experienced, and I appreciate them. And yeah, I appreciate them for that. I don't know. I can't think of all the outstanding. Yeah,
Yeah.
Who's your favorite character other than yourself in the show?
I gotta think about that. Maybe Chuck. I think it could be Chuck, because a lot of the lines are okay. I auditioned with the monologue of Chuck, and in speech, I do creative expression, and sometimes you have to like write your own lines, write your own characters, and create them yourself. And sometimes like when I was trying to like write some like mock scripts over the summer for speech, like I realized that all of the jokes and characters that I was like creating imitated this Chuck character out of the bits of the play I've read. So then I was like, hey, maybe I should just audition for Chuck. And then I did, and I just realized it was like an amalgamation of every single like character I've ever written for, which is so nice. But I think Orcus is another. I think it's a good representation of where I'm at this year in terms of like, oh, how are we gonna do next year? How is like the past few years led up to this? How has it all affected me now? Like I'm more lazier, you know. I'm just like sleepier, more tired, and I think it's nice to explore that.
And speaking of next year you're gonna be next year you're gonna be a senior with like one of the most experience in the actual program itself. Is there anything you plan on doing to just help cultivate a nurturing and helpful environment for anyone who's new next year?
See, when I think about that, it's always hard to see yourself like in it as someone that's been in it for so long. Because I know there's people that have been in it longer than me, but at the same time, like I never expected myself maybe in 7th grade, I'd be like, oh no, I'm never getting a lead part in it. And it's just like trial and error with everything that you do is you have to obviously study your script and then study how everyone else does stuff. It's just weird to think about. But once we are the oldest next year, we are seniors, I think that the best thing I can do sometimes is just to have a positive attitude, because sometimes positive attitudes don't go like 100% of the way. And I want them to go 100% of the way. I want people to be judged not based on how, how they might think they are, how other people might think they are as performers. But I think they should just be judged on their willingness to become artists in their own ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You want people to not be judged for whether they can act or whether they can sing or dance, but you want them to be judged about whether they're willing to go the extra mile to get out of their comfort zone and try something new.
Yeah, that's what I focus on when I'm like at the beginning of this process, because I know that lately it could, sometimes lately stuff seems more competitive since you're so much older and you have so much more of a broad outreach for certain roles and certain significant places throughout the theater system. But if you are like younger, you have less of experience with that, and then you're kind of more accepting to whatever you get. And so that's why I was kind of accepting towards everything I got. And I think that's what we need, is just to have people that are younger open up their their schedules and their brains to experiencing more theater.
How do you think the show is going so far?
It's good. I think I had to take a stop because of the spring break, and when I got back, we were like, "There's no way all of our lines are going to be memorized." And I gotta admit, there was a few times over break where I actually did my lines a little bit, but I took them back, and I was like, "Okay, I just have to go through them. If whatever happens, happens." And the thing we have to improve on is our, fight sequences and our lines. I think that's just like what we need drilled, and we already have Deering and Maldonado doing a fantastic job of helping us drill our scenes. So that's how it's going. We have 2 more weeks.
I mean, next week is our opening night.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Say it like that. We have 2 more weeks sounds less underwhelming. So
yeah.
or less overwhelming. Yeah.
What's your favorite quote your character says?
With no spoilers.
Major spoilers.
Okay, this is a good one. It could be a little bit of like, oh, you'll have to see to believe it, or see to get the context. But so Orcus does something bad towards the group. A little bit of an antagonist, this kind of guy, but he's a protagonist by the end. He takes out a can of Cheese Whiz, and he says, "Are you sure you wouldn't take some Cheese Whiz instead?" No, my bad. And this is a little bit physical comedy, but I start squirting it into my mouth, and until the can is gone. And then I do something else after that people have to see, because I don't want to give all the stuff away. I don't want to make this like a podcast for She Kills Monsters where I perform the entire script.
Yeah. I mean, maybe you could do that after the opening nights. And
we'll do that, yeah.
Yeah. And what's it like working with your fellow cast members?
It's very chaotic behind the scenes, where we're just like, we have weapons this year. And so we're like fake stabbing each other and like fake killing each other. And it's fun.
Fun for the whole family.
Fun for the whole family. And
this plays exclusively 14 and up. Probably don't bring like your 3-year-old child.
Yes, please. Yeah. It's really nice to just like be able to like mess around with other cast members, because once you're older, you get into the more of the routine. Like, hey, I don't have to be so stressed out about this because I know I'm going to be fine. I know it's going to be okay. Working with the people that are older are really, really nice. because sometimes we don't get that. We like have to savor the experience that we have with them because they're leaving. But also, the people that are newer, you kind of have to just encourage them to keep going. And like, if it seems like we have an obsession over someone that's younger, like in theater, it's just because we see a lot of potential in them.
Drake Smooter.
Jake Smooter, exactly.
Yeah.
We see a lot of potential in him. We want him to do so well. And you know, when I was younger, when people like did that a little bit to me, I was like, didn't really believe it. But then I had to just kind of believe it myself, and just had to have my positive moments shine through as a performer. And that's pretty much that. One of the first steps of that is just, being a good performer, getting up there. Yeah.
How do you think the crew sets are going so far?
They're good. I think they're a lot like less. I might know differently, but it's not like Beauty and the Beast where I was on the crew and we were like making bricks for the castle, like 4 days before opening night. It was really scary. It was really scary to shade down bricks and then paint them and then to get them stuck onto a wall. It was so much. It's nothing like that. I really like to see the rocks showing up. And I really like all the props just like really assorted. I feel like it might be the most chaotic assortment of props that's ever been on a prop table for SPHS, because like you go over, there's a morning star, there's a sword, there's a laser pointer, there's Hulk hands or Hulk fists,
Fake body parts.
yeah, fake body parts. It's like a serial killer's nightmare.
Yeah.
Or no, a serial killer's
Daydream.
Yeah. Exactly.
But yeah, like if any like random person just showed up and looked at a prop table, they'd think we'd be planning like some sort of murder and cover up.
Yeah, exactly. Probably Clue, but we did that a couple years ago.
Yeah. And I think we are done with our interview. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for joining us,
having
David. You've
me.
been an amazing guest.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry if it went long.
Oh no,
Haha.
it's completely fine.
Thank you, guys.
And again, we are back with our next interviewee, Bryan Harone, who plays Chuck in our production. Bryan, how long have you been involved with the St. Peter High School theater program?
I think I did The Witches in 8th grade, and that was my first like actual theater experience, and it was very strange, because the only bit of context I'll give is that I'm trans, so at that point I wasn't out yet, so I was cast as a girl, and I have done that up until like freshman year, I think, and so it was a bizarre first experience, but I'm still glad that I did it anyways.
Yep. And just like, can you describe your character in the performance without giving like any massive spoilers?
In this show?
Yeah, in this show.
Walk into Dorkden, say hi to anyone, and that is who this guy is. Very, very outgoing. Once he's in his element, but definitely kind of not someone you'd just like walk up to. But like once you become friends with him, he's a chill dude.
And not only that, I know loosely connected segue over here. Dorkden, D&D. You've been playing you play D&D like a lot, right?
Yes, I do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Does your prior knowledge of D&D help you with preparing for your role?
Oh, absolutely. Because, like Chuck, I feel I don't know if you're gonna have to bleep this, a bit like a smartass when it comes to D&D. If you do, I apologize. If
Oh,
you
we don't. We don't.
Okay,
we
cool.
don't. Just don't say any of the the big swear words.
Okay,
We can,
okay.
If it's in the show, you can say it.
Okay. That helps a lot. So like general D&D stuff, they have like some different terminology. Like I believe they use the word homespun instead of homebrewed, which is usually what people use now because they're doing the older versions of D&D. And I'm more used to like the 5th edition. But I do think that prior knowledge has helped a lot, or else I'd be very lost.
Is the show accurate to D&D experience you have now? You kind of answered it, but if you want to go more in depth.
No, it's So, one of our stage managers in training, Wesley, has actually complained about it probably more than I have. He catches stuff that yeah, you know, because you are up there with him. Like how we pronounce the word Tiamat. Because technically in the D&D show, it's called Tiamat. Wesley, please don't listen to this episode.
Please do.
Please don't.
Please, I will literally go up to him and say, "Hey, Wes, listen to the episode. Brian spins some heathenist lies about you."
No, it's not a lie if it's true. But no, that and just like how powers are described, like magic missile, they describe it very strangely. Like, but I think that also changes from edition to edition, so it's kind of hard to check that. But I would say, in terms of like actually playing it, it's like pretty accurate. Yeah.
And I know, speaking of accuracy, scenes, etc. What's your favorite scene that you're in?
My favorite scene that I'm in? Oh my god. There's one that I'm thinking of. So there are several scenes that in the script are not described as separate scenes, which is a very interesting choice. But I would say there's one where it starts out as the Gap, and then I come in, and the way that I come in is that I'm being spun around. Like, they built a mountain with the dork den in it that I will be sitting in as they turn it, and that I feel so cool. I feel so cool. And then like the set is just awesome.
Speaking of sets,
Speaking of the set, how do you think the sets are going with crew?
Oh my god, it's insane. Because there's a lot of people doing it right now, and it's kind of insane how fast they are building it and how good it's looking right now. Because one of the major set pieces is this giant rock archway, and that's where I go up and do like the announcer voice that I will be doing during the show, and it is so cool. I feel so cool just being on it, and I think anyone who's worked on it should be extremely proud of how it's going.
Yeah, in many of our interviews, many of our prior interviews, people have been saying about like how rushed some other set production is, and like how under pressure they were to actually construct an entire castle or the Borway or the Taverna.
Every time I hear the word brick, I panic a little bit because I worked on the. So during Beauty and the Beast, they made us do these bricks, and instead of like painting it, they wanted to give it some depth, which I think was really cool. But the way that they had us do it was these styrofoam, like, big sheets that we had to cut, like, because it was like a hot wire, I believe, that we used, and like, we would do that, and then we'd sandpaper each individual one and rough it up, and oh my god, it took so long.
Yeah, and David said that you only had like a week to do that.
That one was. It was tedious, but it looked really cool, and I think this one is done more efficiently, but it has an even better effect. Yeah.
What do you say it's like being directed by Deering and Maldonado?
I think it's it's a very interesting experience. I would say overall it's positive. Sometimes there's like conflicting things that I'm given. Like with blocking, that's been a bit harder, but I think part of that is just not being able to have some of the set pieces on stage is like more of the cause of that than anything. But they both like are very receptive to people's ideas. Like Wesley also wanted to bring in a joke, and like that immediately got brought in because they did it once and they found it really funny. And like any ideas we have about like the set or about blocking are usually like taken into consideration and usually applied, and I think that that's very good for directors to do.
Could you tell us what blocking is?
Oh yeah, blocking is figuring out where you're going to be placed on stage. along, like, where you're standing on stage, along with where set pieces are, how close or far away you are from other people as well. So, like, fighting, we have a lot of fighting choreography going on. And blocking would be figuring out who's swinging when, what line they're swinging on, and where they're going to go if they are hit.
And a different question entirely. Who's your favorite character other than yourself? We have
Oh my god.
3 people saying that's Orcus, and then David himself said that Chuck is his favorite.
That's oh my god. Okay. So Orcus is definitely up there just because, comedic relief. Also his costume and like the entire I've seen different iterations of Orcus and all of them have been cool as hell. But I think just writing wise and based on how they're performing it, I think Tilly or Tilly Evans is my personal favorite because I think she has the best lines, and every time, like every iteration I've seen her give of her lines, like Rowan, they have all been better and better and better, and I think that she just adds a lot of depth to the character that's already like so 3-dimensional.
Speaking of like the characters and all that, what is it like working with your cast members and all that cast crew?
Yeah,
all of them.
It's been really interesting, because some of them have only started theater this year, and some of them have been like with me the whole way as well, from like I'll say more like freshman year to now. But they're all very lighthearted. They're all really good at working with other people. And same thing with like crew. They're all just cool as hell. Yeah, I think I really only have pleasant things to say about my cast members.
How do you think the show is going so far?
Oh, we were given such a good script to start with. And so I think all we had to go was up. Like genuinely, I think so. I think the script was such a good pick. I think people in it are very understanding of like the story and the moral of it. The jokes have been on point, and ever since we've gone up script, I think our acting has increased exponentially, and it's just been so much fun. Yeah.
All right. What is your favorite quote your character says without giving away big spoilers?
Because you're such a plot crucial character and a lot of quotes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No. There's one that is actually not plot relevant at all. Which
is it sexy elf?
It's the sexy elf. So I say, what? I don't want to see you get sexy with the sexy elf girl. Ew. Why would I want to hear you describe that? Ew. Hot girl and hot girl action. That's so gross. Or that's so gay, and I'm so straight. And that's funny for multiple reasons.
Honestly, my favorite line in the entire performance.
It's a good line. I feel gross saying it every time. But I know that everyone who knows me knows that that's like
not you as a person.
Not me as a person at all.
We need to have a disclaimer saying that this show is not representative.
It's not
representative of the people involved in it.
I feel like Chuck is the only one, or no, I guess there is another character who's like basically Chuck.
Steve.
Yeah, but
I mean, Brendan just plays Steve on and off set.
Yeah, that's just Brendan. That is literally just Brendan, and I think that that's great.
And what was I going to say? I remember interviewing Deering, and he said that like the show is very like 90s humor and stuff like that. You were one of the characters that are just basically in like represented whatever of the 90s itself. Because like your first scene is you singing like what, Smashing Pumpkins?
No, it's not Smashing Pumpkins. It's
Beck.
I'm a Loser by Beck, which is very good. I love all the music in this show. Because I was raised by people who like, grew up in the 90s, obviously. and so I was exposed to like a lot of that, and so I can appreciate a lot of references in the show, which I think is just fantastic.
One of the things we want to do with this podcast is to convince people to join theater.
Yeah.
You know, anyone next year, year after. How would you pitch theater to someone who's never been involved?
It is an amazing way to like actually get to know people, because I feel like if you're just talking to someone in class, like you have to stay very on topic, or you just kind of keep to yourself. And I think people are scared of like the auditions, or that like, oh, what if I'm not good enough? I had no experience before the witches, like at all. And after people saw the witches, everyone forgot about the witches. Like, so on one end, there are like the shows that won't stick with people, but what convinced me to join theater fully was like Footloose, the musical. And I remember thinking like the people on stage are like the coolest people I've ever seen, and then I learned, oh, not really, but that's besides the point.
Yeah. Or just like people on stage or off stage?
Like off stage.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Like they were still cool. They were just also theater nerds.
And would you say that you're one like now?
Yeah.
Theater really changes people.
I would definitely say so. I've definitely become a lot more outgoing as well. Like I've gotten to know people a lot more. Like, because I think my first real experience with that was like one act, which I did not think I was going to get into, because I tried out my freshman year, and during my freshman year, I don't know if this has changed at all. One act was like notorious, quote unquote, for not casting like freshmen. And I remember they posted it like a day earlier than they said they were going to. And I was just thinking like, whatever, I'll see who got in. And then someone comes up to me during lunch and goes, dude, like, you're in, check the cast list. And I did, and I got actually a named character who had like 2 lines, but it's fine.
Yeah.
And I remember, because I think it was mainly seniors who I was doing it with, and it was a bizarre experience, but I think that has changed like the direction of my high school career. Definitely.
I was always told that like the spring play was known as the senior play because like it would be the last play that the seniors were ever going to do. But with this performance now, we have a lot of people who are like 9th graders, 10th graders, a lot of people that are juniors. How do you feel knowing that like the spring play is opening up to a lot of people from different grades and not just the upperclassmen?
Oh, I think it's really cool. I think there's definitely a lot of underclassmen that are kind of growing into theater more and more. Like Brendan, definitely number one person I can think of in terms of that. And like with crew as well, there are a lot more opportunities, and I think that that's good. Because I remember, I think my freshman year, I auditioned for Clue, and that was the one show that I did not get cast in, but I still did crew for.
Oh yeah, speaking of crew,
Yeah.
well, we talked about Hannah about we talked to Hannah about the glove situation.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Is there any other notable errors that happened that you are willing to talk about?
Yeah. So for Clue, it was mainly Clue, I think. I don't know why, but the crew side of that was just so difficult. I remember one time we were like moving this door out, and I got like just completely knocked in the head because it just wouldn't stay on, like it wouldn't stay latched. But yeah, with the big like glove thing that happened, oh my god. I remember I ran on stage because we didn't know if there were any like I didn't know if there were any more light cues for the rest of the show. And so I just literally I went out, and I was total like the one moment that we knew it was going to be dark. And I ran behind the couch, put it in the box, and then the stage lit up because someone was being accused again. And I believe it was Mrs. White. So the worst color to light up at that moment. But I remember thinking, okay, I'm going to stay behind this for the rest of the show. Luckily, I didn't have to, but oh my god, I think like one person in the crowd noticed, which was my friend who had actually been in crew like a couple years prior. But no one else noticed, and I was, oh my god, I was terrified.
And just turn the tables a bit. CJ,
Yes.
did you just start recording?
No.
Oh, okay.
Stopped and I restarted.
Okay, we're
Oh,
good.
okay, we're good. We're good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For crew, would you recommend people going into crew first, then going into like acting if they want to?
I wouldn't say that there's like, I don't know. I wouldn't treat crew as like a transitional, but if you're not sure, I would say that it's a great place to start. If you're more willing to like do the auditions and you think you could, like if you have experience with speech, or like presentations, that's always been a strong point that you have, then I would definitely just go straight to auditions. But if you're like not sure where you want to go with that, if you're maybe not the strongest singer, because I know like the musical is like the first thing people audition for in the year. I am not a super strong singer, so like I did Mamma Mia crew earlier this year, which was great. So I would say if you're not sure, not super sure, I would definitely start with crew.
And yeah, I was told that crew is sort of like an inherited role. Like once you're lights or once you're sound, you're basically that for like your entire 4 years.
Oh yeah.
And you said that you were part of stage crews or any. Is there anything about stage crew that you would want people to like know about?
Oh yeah. So, I've done like shift crew, and me and a couple friends like Maddie Winsel, Hannah Wohlers. Hannah Wohlers is like the stage manager, so she makes sure that like everything's going out like on time. They're the people with the headsets, and then there's people who pull the curtains, like Lucas Hickey did for Mamma Mia.
Oh,
Right?
poorly.
Okay,
Okay,
yeah, we
I-
know.
I know.
It happens.
Love the man. Great person.
It was.
It was
not
so funny.
fantastic.
It was so
Yeah,
funny.
It was only the first show that.
It was only the first show, but it was so funny.
Yeah. But I think that if again construction is not your strong point, like with like the people who build the set, I recommend shift crew to literally anyone, and like don't be afraid to yell at the actors. That sounds super mean, but during Mamma Mia, everyone touched the props, and we would lose something every night, and it would be the same people like over and over, and just don't be.
Was I one of them? I feel like I was. Okay.
No, absolutely not. Just don't be afraid to to remind actors, because they are told this: if it is not your prop, do not touch it. Yeah, which is, when you first get props, it's maybe like hard to figure out what prop is yours, but when it's like opening night, you should know which props you're allowed to touch and which you are banned from touching forever.
Is there any piece of advice that you would give someone who was like, I don't know, new next year or new this year? Is there any piece of advice that I'd give someone who's just new?
I would say definitely just give it a shot. Especially the plays. That's where like I'm stronger at. Because I've just always really liked acting. If you have just wanted to try it out, like just go for it. Because usually they post like audition monologues, which you can like memorize. Some people choose to memorize, some people don't. I actually usually don't. But also like there's other activities to try. So I had done speech for a long time before I did theater. I started speech when I was like in 7th grade, and I think that helped me figure out that I really wanted to do acting. So I would say get a couple people who are also maybe thinking about doing theater and agree to audition at around the same time, because I find that usually like helps people or like convinces people. Because I think it's just great to have like that moral support with you.
This is your last performance, correct?
Yeah.
Any plans on doing theater like after high school and college? Because I think you're going to college, correct?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I am actually going to the Minneapolis College of Art and Design. And I'm actually not sure that they have like a theater program. which you'd consider like ironic considering it's
In art.
but it's more of like visual arts versus like theatrical arts. But I definitely want to explore like local community theaters like in Minneapolis because I think that would be insane to do. But like if I was going like more locally, like if I was going to MSU, absolutely I would be. I think it's just I do plan to, and like there's different avenues like because I plan on going into animation as a major, so there's also chances for like voice acting or doing my own video references. So I think I will continue with it.
And then on the subject of this being your last performance, we talked to Sky Gassman. How are you dealing with this? How?
I think it's just not hit me yet. Probably is the biggest thing. Because I know for me it was difficult with like one act because that's the one that I always look most forward to. And so for that one, I remember I was crying once I got home. But for this one, I think just because it's like D&D, which I'm so passionate about, and there's a lot of queer characters, that it's also going to be pretty difficult because it's just subjects that are so close to me.
But hey, you're at least ending on a high note.
But I am ending on a high note. I think that this is one of the best scripts we've ever like done. I remember when I started with Clue, I was like, I hope I get something like that my senior year. And I would say She Kills Monsters does like a perfect job of that. I think it is a great script to end on.
And wow, this interview went on for longer than anticipated.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
We love
But
longer ones.
yeah,
Okay.
but yeah, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, it's great to do this.
Anyway, this will be our last interview for the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. But just make sure to check out She Kills Monsters, both of both the podcast and the actual performance when it happens. And depending on what,
6th and 7th.
yeah, the 5th, 6th, and 7th. Assuming this episode actually comes out before then. If it comes out after the performances, thank you for listening.
If you don't watch it, I'm legally obligated to kill you.
Yeah. And what a way to end.